To the Captain's Run with Cam Smith. We're here for Chemist Warehouse. Shop the half-price vitamin sale now at Chemist Warehouse. And Strutties, look good, feel good, and play your best. Broncos slumped to a 50-12 loss to the Storm in their final game in a bit of a, well, not just a bit of a, in a shocking end to the season, heaping more pressure on Kevin Walters. Focus now turns to their retention with a host of players available to negotiate with other clubs come November 1. Reece Walsh, due to come off contract, but is locked in talks with the club to avoid letting him hit the open market. The future of Adam Reynolds is also under a cloud after an injury-affected season, and criticism from Broncos, from Gordon Tallis in the media. It says Brisbane Broncos old boys here, but mainly just Gordon Tallis. Can you see them signing before the extension? Smithy?
Yes.
Broncos. Give me your thoughts, mate.
Oh well, it's a poor season by their standards, isn't it? Coming off what was very close to a premiership last year. Now I know they lost a couple of players, and fairly important players too. So, but mate, they still had a list to do better than what they did. Seriously, like they really should have been playing for finals. They should be playing this week.
Absolutely.
Injuries or no injuries, like I'd like to think that we can move past that because there's teams that have finished in the top four that have had a significant amount of injuries throughout this season. Storm, Penrith, like the Sharks as well. Like they've had a lot of injuries throughout the entire season. How many games has Nico Hines played?
Oh, mate.
Like half the
many.
year?
Yeah, not many.
Half the year?
Yeah.
So, like they get a young fella up, Dan Atkinson. He comes in and absolutely kills it. Like he won, 10 of 12? I think he's had 12 appearances.
Yeah.
He's won 10 of them. So you can say, oh, look, Adam Reynolds wasn't there and Payne Haas was injured and this and that. They had a good enough squad to be a part of finals. There's a bit more going on than just injuries and the challenges that they face when missing some of their key players. I don't know. I'm going to go back to what I spoke about, last week was that it's one of two things, right? See, they either struggle with expectation this year. Around, a lot of people thought that they were premiership favourites coming off last season, and how close they got, and then feeling as though, look, they'll then go to the next level, find another gear, and go again this year. But they didn't. So they either struggled with the expectation of everyone's belief that they were going to win the competition this year, or they just felt that it was going to happen again without putting in the same amount of work as what they did last year.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. Now, at some stage, whether it be a third of the way through the season, at the halfway mark, whenever it was, someone needs to pretty much just say, hey, hang on, boys, what's happening here? Whether it be player, coaching staff, I don't care. Someone needs to pull the whole group up and say, what we're doing right now is not working.
Yeah.
Okay? Something needs to change. What needs to change? Our training? Is it our game plan? What is it? Because clearly something's not working. Is it our attitude towards our preparation? What is it? Is it our mindset game day? Like, find something. Don't just let the season continue along and just keep finding these poor results because they'd suffer a loss and then you'd want to hear, we're trying to find out what's going on and, Kev really wouldn't give us much. You wouldn't hear much from the playing group. Nothing except for training's, our preparation's been great. Everyone's on board. We can't seem to get it going game day.
Yeah, it's this is their midway through the season they lose to the Titans 36-34, Sharkies 22-12, and it was a dominant performance second half by the Sharkies. They then lose to the Rabbitohs, who had a terrible season themselves. They then lose to the Warriors, who have a terrible season themselves. Lose to the Panthers, lose to the Dragons, then they beat the Knights. They get absolutely smashed by the Bulldogs 41-16.
Yep.
They get absolutely smashed by the Titans 46-18. They have this bizarre win against the Cowboys, but really good win against the Cowboys. They just scrape by the Eels in the second half performance, and they get absolutely smashed 40-6 and 50-12. So in their last four games, they lost 46-18 to the Titans. Then they lost 40-6 by the Dolphins and 50-12 by the Storm.
Yep.
you can't tell me that that's just injuries. Like, it's one thing, like,
No.
let's say we went through half the back end of the year and it was like, oh, we lost by 2 points and 4 points and 6 points. You go, okay, like, look, maybe things just went, we're getting like 40 put on us and 50 put on us. So, yeah, I just think that the attitude towards defence needs to improve drastically. And I think that, I understand the outwardly facing positivity.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it's conducive to the playing roster that especially is young to almost be like, oh, no, it's all good, we'll turn it around. I think you need to be a little bit harsher than that, even as, like, put them not on notice individually, but as a team publicly, the way the best coaches do, in my opinion. Now, onto the Raiders. Won 3 straight to end the season, including wins over both Panthers and Roosters before. Matter of fact, Raiders have one of the best records against top 8 sides out of the whole competition. It's absolutely crazy. Yeah, it's insane. Stewart has overseen a rebuild of the squad, focused on youth. So he's come out pretty much before the season started. And this is a key for me. I get frustrated when coaches come out mid-year and say, oh, we're in the middle of a rebuild. It's like, hang on a sec, you weren't saying that at the start of the year. Whereas Ricky Stewart, he said that from the get-go. It's going to be tough. We're going to blood some young fellas, but we're rebuilding. What did you think of the Raiders season, mate?
Yeah, a little bit up and down, but they were very impressive at the end.
Yeah,
very impressive at the end. When there was a chance for them to be a part of the finals, and look, that up until the last match, Newcastle and Dolphins, they were in the top 8. So that would have been an agonising Sunday afternoon for the players and the coaches and all of their fans waiting to see what was actually going to unfold, and they would have had their fingers crossed. That game was going to result in a draw, but it didn't. So they just missed out. But that the fight that they showed at the end, right? That's what I would have expected to see from the Broncos.
Yeah.
And I know we just spoke about the Bronx, so we don't want to go back to them, but they were in a position in the last 2 rounds to be a part of finals. They just had to get up for that Dolphins game, and they were a big chance. But anyway, they didn't. But look, I think they can hold their heads high. I think they would have expected to be a part of finals, and they just missed out. But I think the way that they finished and the way that they performed against sides sitting above them was pretty impressive for me.
I think the Raiders, like, their ability, when you actually look at the roster that they had, the injuries to key positions, like a guy like Fogarty, when you're already very thin in the spine, and then you lose Fogarty for like 12 weeks.
Yep.
At one stage, they had Strange and Weeks in the halves, and there's an argument to be made. Both players aren't necessarily halves, but also Strange is bloody 18 years old. KO Weeks might be 21, 22 years old, and yet they found a way to make it work. No one had heard of Cook from reserve grade earlier in the year, and obviously he came in, he did a job. Mate, I think they deserve massive raps because, I think a lot of other teams in their position with the roster that they've got and the situation the club's in a almost like a rebuild phase, they're finishing bottom 4, and they're not even coming close to challenging top tier sides.
Yeah, that's you're right, mate. And they finished on the same wins as Newcastle, and Newcastle are playing this week, so there was only a little bit in it. The one area I think Ricky will want to work on extremely hard in this preseason will be their defence. They conceded 600 points this year.
Yeah.
If they improved that, or if that was a little bit better this year, I got no doubt they would have played finals.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple of games this year where they just, like, the defence was just non-existent at times, particularly on their goal line where, and I think they were the games where Ricky come out and absolutely just give them a hiding in the press.
Yeah.
Saying it was embarrassing, little boys' performance, those type of things. So I think next year their main focus will be to shore up their defence and make sure that when they get out next year, that everyone's on the same page as far as what needs to happen with their structures and more so around their ability to turn opposition teams away off their own goal line.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I cannot wait to see what the Raiders do next year, especially they've got some really good young signings coming through. In key positions too. They've got some young guys in the 7 position and 9 position that are some of the best of their age group. So very exciting times for the Raiders. We're going to head to a break. After the break, we've got plenty more to talk about, including the chat about Dragons season and also the Dolphins season.